If you can't find a hairstyle, you've come to the right video. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to find the perfect hairstyle for you. And at the end of this video, I have a free surprise that you might be interested in. So starting out, to get the best haircut, you want to find what hair type you have. It's actually crazy to me because most guys do not know what hair type they have. And this will make a night and day difference for the hairstyling products you use, the haircuts you can get, the way that your hair lays. It's so important. So when I'm talking, this might sound a little bit confusing, but I'll put a diagram on screen that'll really pretty much explain everything that I'm saying. So there's really 4 main hair types with 3 subcategories of each hair type. The types are known as 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then A, B, and C. The number is your curl pattern, and the letter stands for the texture of each hair type. What you want to do is take a shower without using any shampoo, conditioner, not really putting anything in your hair. The goal here is simply just to get your hair wet. Then you need to pluck a strand of your hair out, or you can cut it out if you'd like to, and compare it to this diagram on screen. When your hair is dry, it's going to look like one of these, and that will be your hair type. For example, if you have straight hair, it's going to be more on the 1A side, and then coily hair is going to be on the 4C side. Now that you know your hair type, here's some haircuts that go well with each hair type. Starting out with short hairstyles. If you have straight hair, I'd highly recommend a French crop. Wavy hair, I'd go for a quiff. Curly hair, you should try going for a fringe. And coily hair, try going for a fade. Now, medium length hairstyles get a little bit more tricky because each hair type is so different from the last. So instead of recommending you specific hairstyles or haircuts, I'll tell you what you need to know about each hair type. For example, if you have straight hair, it's going to be really hard to make it stand up unless it's very thick, which means it's really good to style using products like texture powder, but products like sea salt spray might not be the best for you. That being said, hair clay is a really good product for this hair type. Wavy hair is a little bit different because there is some bend in your hair. Using a product like sea salt spray will actually make it appear much more wavy, so I'd highly recommend this for you. Wavy hair is also more forgiving than straight hair, which means that if somebody messes up your haircut or anything like that, they won't notice it as much, and you can get away with a lot more messy looks. For curly hair, often you'll struggle with a lot of frizz, and the best way to fix that is by using a curl mousse. As for coily hair, the biggest issue tends to be dryness, which is why I always recommend using scalp oils. Now that you know your hair type, let's talk about hair porosity, a term that you probably haven't heard of. I never knew what hair porosity was, and when I first heard it, I thought like it was some random scientific term, but it's actually really simple. It's pretty much just how well your hair absorbs and holds on to moisture. Now, to find your hair porosity, because it is very important once you come to picking a hairstyle, what you need to do is take a strand of your hair out, whether you cut it or you pull it out, fill up a glass of water, and sit your hair on top of that glass of water. Now wait about 5 minutes and come back. If your hair is sitting on the top of that, you have low porosity hair. If your hair is in the middle, you have medium porosity, and if your hair is sunk to the bottom, you have high porosity hair. High porosity hair just means your hair absorbs a lot of water or liquids, but it also means that water can escape really quickly, so it doesn't actually retain moisture often, and it gets really dry. Now, people with low porosity will find it much harder to absorb moisture into their hair. So when it comes to the way you style your hair and the products you use, for low porosity, you want to use lightweight products that contain some amount of moisture. The reason you want this is because low porosity, it's so hard to actually penetrate your hair with the moisture that it might actually just sit there on the top and cause a bunch of buildup. So lightweight things will actually leave you feeling a lot less, I guess, greasy. Some good products are leave-in conditioners and mousses. For medium porosity, honestly, you can really go with any type of hair products. For high porosity hair, you want to use products that help get rid of frizz. This hair gets so dry that frizz is your most common problems, which is why you want to use products like this. Something like a lightweight mousse would be a good product to use. Now let's talk about your face shape, because I would say this actually matters the most out of everything we've gone over thus far. Your face shape determines what haircut will look good on you, because you could always get a good haircut, but I can't count how many times me and many other guys have gone to the barber. You sit down in the chair, you show a picture of a haircut, they give you the haircut, and realistically it looks similar to what you showed them, but it just doesn't look right. This is because you got a haircut that did not match your face shape. Now there are a ton of different face shapes. You got circular, triangular, rectangular, all of these different face shapes. But the way I see it, it's a lot less about the specific shape that matters and more so about the features on your face that create that shape. What I mean by that is if you have chubby cheeks, getting something like a buzz cut might make you look like an egg. And trust me, I've seen it before. People get a buzz cut. Doesn't look good on everyone, but for some people, maybe if you have a diamond face shape that's more angular, it might look good on you. I think there's 3 main features to look at to determine what haircuts will look good on you. The first thing really comes down to proportions. How short or how long is your head? Because this makes a big difference. And what I mean by that is if you have a short head, you don't want to get a haircut that makes your head look a lot shorter. And then if you have a long head, if you get something really spiked up, you're going to be walking around looking like a stick. Just to compare it to a shape, because that's what we're talking about, think of a circle and an oval. Which one is closer to your head shape? Circle head shapes, you're probably going to look better with hairstyles styled upward that make your head look a little bit longer, keeping some amount on the upper third side of your hair, as this will keep you from looking too much like an egg, and just making sure you avoid anything that makes your head look too circular. As for oval head shapes, like I said, just don't keep it too long going upward. Otherwise, you're going to look like a stick. The second topic of face shape, this is a little bit of a sensitive topic, but it needs to be brought up, and that's going to be your body weight. Not actually as much your weight, but really just your fat percentages. So based on how much fat you store on your face, that will really change how good haircuts look on you. If you're somebody who stores a lot of fat in your face, usually you're going to want to go for sort of like medium to slightly longer hairstyles, because this can actually cover up these sort of curves to your face. While if you're somebody with a more chiseled face, let's say you have high cheekbones, a good jawline, stuff like that, you're going to want to go for medium to shorter hairstyles, because this will really show off the features that you have. Now let's talk about actual facial features and how it affects your haircut. So just an example, if you have a big nose, you might want to get a haircut that sort of comes out in the front, kind of like mine right here, as this will make the proportions look more even and keep your nose from looking more big, I guess. If you have a big forehead, sometimes covering that up can look better, maybe if you don't have the best hairline, and then vice versa, depending on your other features. So if you have a nice hairline, it's good to show it off. Not if you have a really big forehead, or if you don't like the way your forehead looks. Just make sure whatever haircut you get plays into your features and doesn't take away from them. If I had a bad hairline, I'm not going to get a haircut like a slick back, because that's really just exposing myself. Instead, I'm going to get a haircut that covers it up, but also shows off my other features. Just a bonus here, you want to look at your jawline as another feature to indicate what haircut you should get. Oftentimes, people with more square, wide jawlines look better with short hair, because otherwise your head looks massive if you grow your hair out really long and you have a square jawline. And then people with more narrow jawlines, you might want to grow your hair out so that way it can actually make your jawline look a little bit bigger. Now let's talk about hair loss, because most men will face it at some point in their life. In fact, the majority, over 50% of all men, will experience it. So how are you going to prepare, and how does this affect what haircuts you should get? Well, obviously you want to cover this up, because it's usually not a great look to have hair loss. So if you have a receding hairline, maybe get a haircut that goes more forward. But when it comes to preventing hair loss, it really is in the word preventing, like acting before it's too bad. Now me, I'm only 20 years old, but I've already started working on my hair loss to make sure it doesn't get too bad. And the two most important things that you can use are minoxidil and finasteride, or kind of a gatekept thing, dutasteride. Minoxidil will help with hair growth, help it grow in thicker, faster, fuller, and just help you grow more hair overall. And then finasteride keeps you from losing the hair that you're growing, as well as the hair that you started with. And then dutasteride is really just a stronger form of finasteride. I believe the percentages are finasteride is 70% effective, and then dutasteride is 90% effective. So you kind of got to pick and choose. I will say both of these disrupt your hormones a good amount. So if you can't avoid using them, definitely do so. But if you need to prevent hair loss, you're going to have to pick between one of those two. And I will admit, something like dutasteride is going to have a much greater impact on keeping you from losing your hair. That being said, it's going to have more of a hormonal impact. Now, some people can use these drugs and have pretty much no effects, no side effects, no issues with it at all, while other people seem to get the worst side effects like depression, all of this other stuff. That being said, I haven't really heard of many horror stories of people using products like this. Now let's talk about your scalp type, because this is just as important as everything else. Everybody's scalp produces a different amount of oil. Some people have dry, some people have medium, and some people have very greasy scalps. Now, there's a scalp test video that I made recently, and I'll basically sum it up for you. You can do a scalp test to figure out which of these you have by doing this simple test. So what you need to do is, when you wake up in the morning, wash your hair using only water. Go throughout your day, do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. When you get home, see what your scalp looks like. Go up to the mirror, look at your scalp. You want to do this. It's going to feel really weird, but you want to take your fingernail and sort of scratch your scalp. Now, when you scratch it, one of three things is going to happen. One, it's going to look like it's snowing because a bunch of flakes are falling off. That's one thing, okay? Two, nothing's going to happen. You're going to scratch it. It's going to hurt a little bit, maybe, I don't know. And it's not really going to feel like anything. And three, you're going to feel some grease under your fingernail, which is kind of gross, but you got to do this to figure out which one you are. Based on this test, you want to treat your hair differently. So the first one is the most dry scalp. This is actually dry scalp induced dandruff, which is that snowy dandruff that some people have. Many people have it that have dry scalps. And for this, you're probably going to want to switch your shampoo, whatever you're using, to a sulfate-free shampoo, because sulfates are the cleaning agents that you find in pretty much every shampoo, while sulfate-free, on the other hand, doesn't have these harsh agents that strip your hair. Now, if you're already using a sulfate-free shampoo, something else you can try is using scalp oils, which pretty much rehydrate your scalp and keep it from feeling so dry. And you can also just try using shampoo less often in general. For the medium scalp type, you can really just keep doing whatever you're doing, because obviously it's working. Now for the oily scalp type, this is something that I don't see many people talk about, but when you have an oily scalp, this can cause a different type of dandruff, which is a type of yeast growing on your scalp. This dandruff is far worse, in my opinion, than the dry scalp dandruff. It's a lot harder to cure, but the way to cure this, first off, it's going to be sort of chunky flakes that fall off of your scalp, and they're going to feel greasy and moist and wet. It's going to feel really weird, and to fix this, that's where you would use a shampoo, for example, like Head and Shoulders, or any sort of dandruff shampoo. Like Nizoral is another good example of one. Now, when you use these, that's what that is meant for. If you have the first type of dandruff from a dry scalp, you don't need to use these dandruff shampoos. That's kind of where they catch a lot of people and they kind of scam you, to be honest. If you have this oily scalp, another thing you can do is just use shampoo more often because it's going to help get rid of more of that oil. Now that you know your scalp type, your hair porosity, and all of these other things, then it comes down to where you're getting your hair cut. And I have a very simple guide. There's not much explaining needed whatsoever. If you're going to get something like a fade lineup, something that requires clipper work, which clippers are the things that go bzzz, like the electric things that barbers use to cut your hair. If you're getting something like that, you want to go to a barbershop most of the time, as they are usually way better with clippers. Now, if you have medium to long length hair, kind of like mine, you want to go to a salon most of the time. Reason being, they're usually far better at scissor work rather than using clippers. And scissor work is always going to treat you better if you have medium to long length hair. And they have techniques that most barbers don't even have to begin with. Then we got the trends. So in the year 2025, what are the most trendy hairstyles? What is going to make you stand out the most? The trends, the way I see it right now, because I make hair content literally every day, I see this so much. It's really going in the direction of an effortless look, which is why using products like sea salt spray, texture powder, matte finish hair clay are getting so popular, because these hair products look like there's nothing in your hair at all. When back in the day, the sort of greasy hair look used to be very popular. So overall, products like that are what you want to use, products that don't really look like there's anything there. And then as for the haircuts, you want to go for stuff more effortless. So back in the day, there used to be people who would always get extreme fades with like lines and designs in their hair. That is not a trend right now. It's not in, it's not popular. People like the casual look. And in 2025, if that's when you're watching this, that is the trend. Go for something casual that looks like you're not trying too hard. As for the surprise I mentioned earlier in this video, down below, I linked a Discord that you can join for completely free to talk to me and the whole community of young people who are coming together to improve themselves.